Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Representative McClintock might have given the calmest takedown of Dan Goldman and the entire Democrat Party that you might ever see. Let's dive in.
Rather than allow the deterrence to play out and the person to go to trial, this MS-13 terrorist to go to trial, be convicted, and serve a lengthy sentence, which is the whole thrust of this bill, this administration decided, no, we're just going to let him go back to El Salvador. And so that is the exact opposite. That's what you're worried about. That's what you're worried about. If we just deport people, they'll come back. And yet that's exactly what this administration is doing with top cartel officials and terrorists. Now, I have no idea whether this was a side deal between President Trump and President Bukele that is related to the payments that President Trump is making to President Bukele in order to imprison prisoners. There's no question. There's on the record reporting that President Bukele is in opposition to extraditing members of MS-13 because they may have information about him. So I don't know what the derivation of this was and why it happened, but what I do know is that this is a cartel member who was extradited, charged, would have gone to jail for a long time, and was dismissed by this Department of Justice just so they could deport him. So why don't you speak out against that rather than trying to elevate these illegal reentry sentences?
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For 4 years, the Democrats deliberately flooded our country with more than 8 million foreign nationals who violated our immigration laws, illegally crossed the border, and the Democrats then trafficked them across the country, including the most violent criminals and criminal gangs and cartels on this planet. This administration was specifically elected by the American people to protect our citizens, secure the integrity of our borders, and restore the rule of law. Now, regarding the Democrats' obsession with returning Abrego Garcia to our country, the record's very clear, and I'll state it again. He was determined by 2 immigration judges to be affiliated with MS-13 after being arrested in the presence of known MS-13 members, wearing gang insignia and a gang tattoo, and in possession of $1,200 in cash and drugs. A confidential informant confirmed he was a mid-ranking member of MS-13. He was denied release on bond because while his immigration case was pending, because of the potential danger that he posed to the community. This is precisely the type of individual the Democrats want returned into our neighborhoods. This is exactly the kind of individual that this bill attempts to protect us from. The Democrats have made it clear, time and again, that if they're ever returned to power, this nightmare will resume and Americans will be held hostage to the most violent criminals in the world, protected by democratic sanctuary laws and shielded by woke Democratic district attorneys. That is the choice that faces the American people. This administration was elected to protect us from this deliberate subversion of our laws, and it's doing everything that it can despite the opposition from the Democrats. The Democrats argue that even though he was ordered deported, he was ordered not to be deported to El Salvador, even though he's a citizen of El Salvador. Now, that order was not known to ICE when he was deported. It should have been, but it wasn't. Bureaucracies make mistakes. They shouldn't, but they do. Point taken. But now, what's the status of this case? Abrego Garcia is a citizen of El Salvador, in the custody of the government of El Salvador. The United States has no jurisdiction over him whatsoever. Now, the courts ordered the president to, quote, facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia, but it's conveniently failed to define exactly what that means. I think the reason for that is because they can't think of any act the president could take that a court can compel. If they could think of one, I think they would have specified it. So they leave an entirely ambiguous word because they can't define specifically what they mean. It's very clear that the court cannot compel the president to facilitate or conduct foreign policy, and yet that's the only order they could issue to facilitate Abrego's return. So I think the Democrats need to exercise a little self-reflection here and consider the position that they've taken and the danger that it poses to the American people.
Mr. Chairman?
I yield back.
McClintock is giving off the energy of a grandfather who isn't angry, he's just disappointed. Okay, that's the kind of energy that he's giving off right here because he is telling off Dan Goldman, reminding him time and time again that the whole narrative behind Abreu Garcia, an illegal migrant with alleged ties to MS-13, with more allegations coming out against him for human trafficking, and wearing pro-MS-13 memorabilia and paraphernalia, and being picked up with 2 other known MS-13 members. And the Democrat Party has been behind this dude 100%. And then the mainstream media started talking about him like he was an American citizen, which not only wasn't true, but they then peddled the idea that he's a Maryland father. I'm sorry, unless Maryland magically moved to El Salvador, I don't think that means what you think it means. This is what happens when you give Democrats a little too much power. This is what happens in Democrat states. New Mexico, California, Illinois, New York State, and Maryland are some of the worst run states in America. Hey y'all, here's the deal. Gold loves President Trump. Under Trump's first term, the price of gold soared 53%, and the price of silver jumped 51%. Since the start of the second term, gold has skyrocketed even higher, breaking records and even outperforming stocks. Here's what I like about precious metals like gold and silver. They have been used as a store of value for centuries. Governments can't easily manipulate it. They are used as hedges against market risk and, of course, against inflation. That's why I partnered with the amazing people over at Goldco. Goldco is an award-winning precious metals company. They are fans of this show, and they have helped millions of Americans just like y'all to purchase over $3 billion in gold and silver. Right now, you can get a free copy of their 2025 gold and silver kit. On top of that, you might also qualify for their amazing unlimited silver bonus offer. So don't wait on this. Go to politibrawlgold.com to learn more. That's politibrawlgold.com or call 855-644-GOLD. Okay, that is the sad reality of Democrat administrations when they're allowed a little too much power. And what happens every single time is they hollow out the middle class. What they end up doing is they make the wealthy even wealthier, but they make the poor now completely dependent on the wealthy, and they drive out the middle class entirely. This is what happened across the Rust Belt. This is what happened to California, and people have been fleeing those states for new grounds, hoping to find better pastures because Democrats overshot the target. They forgot what it means to govern. And that's why they want to take care of Abreu Garcia. He is one of those poor people. We need to bring as many of them over into the United States as we can because that's just the right thing to do. Really? The right thing? The right thing is trying to clean up your neighbor's mess. El Salvador used to be a mess until President Bukele finally got the will of the people behind him, and he was able to clean up the nation to the point where they have had such a shift from going from one of the worst countries to deal with in the entirety of the Western Hemisphere to now one of the best places to do business because he cleaned up the crime in the streets. And the mainstream media lied about him. They lied about President Bukele, and they hate the fact that he and Trump are good buddies. Because how dare you stand up to journalists who won't stop talking about nonsense, won't stop drumming up these ridiculous reports about how Bukele's actually making things worse in El Salvador. The mainstream media tried to paint him as a tyrant, and the people think of him as a savior. No wonder American trust in in most media outlets is just in the toilet. It's awful. And it's rhetoric like this that Dan Goldman is out here parroting, thinking that it's going to make a difference with the American people. The reality is, with the Obrero Garcia case, is that he was deported one step too early. All because a judge wasn't able to update an order, because back when the order was given, he should not be expatriated to El Salvador because it was too dangerous at the time. Well, it got cleaned up in that time period. President Bukele cleaned up an entire country. And because we jumped the gun by a split second, the mainstream media decided to run with this story, and the more information came out, the worse things got. Dan Goldman, 9 times out of 10, is simply trying to keep his position in Congress. He is trying to make sure that he doesn't rock the boat too much, and that he's walking this fine line where he's still getting money from rich white liberals who think he's sticking it to Trump, when all he's doing is making the waters muddier, everything murkier. The dude is quite literally obstructing what a process that we're trying to go through in order to take out violent, known, illegal immigrants. This is a good thing. Only a rich white liberal can afford to think like this. Only someone who has completely lost their minds. And this is my running theory on the situation. The real reason Democrats talk like this, the real reason that they believe in stuff like this, is it's the only way they know how to show their patriotism. I think the reason is they have hated America. They have been angry that we're so successful, and they have felt guilty about this. And so by allowing in illegal migrants and by giving money to Ukraine, we can show just how great America is. We can afford to help out all these other people. Well, folks, we can't afford that anymore. We are $36 trillion in debt, and to make matters worse, we've got an illegal immigration problem. And the Democrats helped foment this problem under the Biden administration. They have been complicit in it, and they refuse to take responsibility for it. And that's why Dan Goldman is getting chided here. He deserves the lecture, and again, Representative McClintock, he's kind of like the moral grandfather that hasn't been too hands-on, but finally you have the intervention. Grandpa's there, and he's saying that he's not mad, he's just disappointed. Granted, I'm a little bit more angry than McClintock is, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.